Live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for joining us, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch, Andrew J. Polk. All of those places are to say that we are in a whole lot of locations and making that conversation available to you all, because you can leave your comments throughout the program over on, most of those outlets. It ends up being more like DMs or responses over on Twitter, but most of those you can at least watch, chime in, tune in, and of course chime in if you want to here, because of course that's how the Skeptic Squad gets their kicks throughout the program here, and the Thunderdome comments pops up usually over on the Facebook page more than anything, the facebook.com/Talk El Paso. But there's also a whole lot more we get to in here. A few of the topics top of mind here today. More debate on the whole transit travel road situation here in town. Some interesting op-eds coming out recently, juxtaposed on the issue of I-10 that I kind of want to drill down into here a little bit, because trade, transit, travel, gas prices still very much in focus. They've started coming down a little bit locally. I've dared to look at the pumps again myself here, looking at creeping down ever so slightly, still well over $4. But part of that also now a potential gas dividend or stimulus, or however you want to put it here. And while that may help some people, the idea of more of those checks being sent out may have some other connotations for a lot here. That idea being floated at the national level, even as there are some other options being discussed more at the state level, including gas tax holidays or revocation of them overall. So we'll get into that here a bit. Plus also kind of teased it yesterday, but we'll get into it here today. The increasing focus on the dangers of not looking before you leap in this housing market, as even as interest rates are going up, prices still looking pretty high. So we'll get into that. Also, our interview here today on how basically the transition from, the early 2010s of the hashtag disruptive industries, and now just dealing with the constant disruptions we're seeing. I mean, gas prices among one of them, but supply chain issues, staffing, personnel, HR, just grid issue. I mean, all of it. How do you deal with that in this modern day for yourself, your small business, your large business, or anywhere in between? How do you even go about it? We'll be talking with Benjamin Breier about that, former CEO and author of a book focused on that, to just even a mindset to go about tackling this, because, again, the only constant that we've had over the last few years, and I would argue well before that even, is that change happens and is rapidly coming, may come at you very rapidly in some cases. But let's get into it here, as we have a Calvin Williams joining us over on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Good afternoon to you as well. So again, a lot of focus on I-10 and the potentials of it. Some interesting graphics, but then also interesting perspectives over from El Paso Matters coming out in their opinion sections in the last day or so here. Just routinely titled between the two of them, Opinion: Improving I-10 Downtown is Key to El Paso's Advancement, as written by David Jerome and Rep. Lena Ortega. And then a response, or kind of not decisive response, I believe came out at technically the same time here. This one technically out today, I guess. But Opinion: El Paso deserves a better long-range transportation plan. Pretty well encapsulating the debate I've seen online within these two areas about what the downtown corridor means. This one written by Robert Stotch in this case here. So hopefully I'm saying that right. So basically the debate comes down to, should we focus on the expansion of downtown, the expansion of I-10? Not a whole lot of debate I'm hearing about that next part that's probably going to be coming out, that part between essentially the state line and Mesa on the west side. That probably going to happen. It makes a certain level of sense, because we've got that, ever since New Mexico got their act together, as we also have Edgar Ortiz joining us over on the Facebook page on board with us here. Glad you're on the question is, are we a truck, trolley, train, bus, or something else? And that's the kind of question coming out of it here with these priorities being discussed here. So again, that section between Mesa and the state line on the west side. Again, New Mexico got their act together a few years ago. Well, relatively act together, at least when it comes to I-10 in our section. Again, kind of having gone up that way a little bit. Some of that bridge traffic and the construction they're doing there ongoing, but it's, I guess, better late than never in a lot of those cases. But point is, they got it up to 3 lanes right up to the state line, and then it does that weird contraction down to 2 lanes until you hit then Mesa near Donovan. and then it opens back up, creating just headaches if you're headed that way. That's sometimes part of my commute, depending on the way I take to get back. So, I mean, that makes sense to extend, but the debates, I mean, so no one's really opposed to that as far as I'm aware, as opposed to the whole, oh my gosh, traffic is going to stink. I mean, you're justified in that, but what else are you going to do? But the real questions keep coming down to then the part just south and then east of that, because as you trace I-10 headed into downtown, that's where the kerfuffle is brewing and has been for a while. As a couple of these opinions put it here, that the MPO, Metropolitan Planning Organization, kind of the conglomeration of the organizations involved in all of these major decisions, city, county, state, and otherwise in between officials, Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority, amongst others. So at all levels, so it's not just everyone planning separately and hoping it all works together when it comes to transit, travel, and routes. Probably a good thing in the overall, but concerns coming from the Robert Starch part of this about, okay, are we truly looking at what the needs are versus then on the other side of, again, by David Jerome and Rep. Lena Ortega, saying that, yes, this is very important for this to be done here because you mean making it more available and all of that stuff coming out of here, arguing that it's important. And as part of their showing the graphics of that proposed downtown deck, I mean, the graphic looks nice. Again, elpasomatters.org is where you can go and find these op-eds, read them for yourselves, come to your own decisions. But, I mean, the disruption, I mean, even the graphic itself shows that, yeah, those areas that are going to be south of Yandell blown away for the road construction. And then eventually, because remember, it's a separate project that might potentially lead to those park decks, however you want to put it here, showing in part of them looking like concert venues or even like playing fields, which, again, given that we're even talking about at least some of the previous projections I have seen, the design documents, those kind of things, have talked about even having lightweight dirt and mulch applied to these because weight will be a concern. Does raise a little bit of a question for me for some of like water features I think I'm seeing here, if I'm seeing that right. So, I mean, I've seen them in some of the graphics here, but again, just looking at the ones over there on El Paso Matters, you can see for yourself, raises questions, absolutely, about how actually that would be implemented. And again, it being just a totally separate project does then put into my mind, okay, we've had issues with TxDOT in town, mostly in the fact that the project funding in our area has been languishing for better part of decades. In any other part of Texas, I feel like these projects probably would have happened like 3 decades ago. But maybe that's just me. But there hadn't been as much focus. Okay, I guess I don't really fault TxDOT itself for that, rather the elected officials who are then making the decisions and informing how the funding is spent. We've got it ignored for a lot of stuff out here in the far west part of Texas. So, I mean, okay, that issue involving TxDOT anyway, I mean, when they do get the go-ahead, it does happen. It does move through, even if it's, again, not fun. But point to me a road project that's fun, and I'll show you something where you have a serious impairment going on, you're thinking about it. Anyway, point is that when we come down to these projects, these opposing viewpoints, again, I find this encapsulation pretty decent in the two viewpoints. I mean, a lot of conversation going on online about, okay, sure, we need stuff moving through here. The highway system isn't going away anytime soon, but do we want to see, really, one of the finer points of it, do we want there to be more major movement of goods? I mean, with the trucking system going straight through literally the center of the community, tracking I-10, or do we want to look at alternates? We talked a little bit about the whole Anthony's Gap area and 54 kind of along with that, but 375 could, I mean, with the Northwest Parkway that has been discussed, make it move out there. Now, I-10 is going to get redone probably regardless. I mean, it has had nigh on 70 years of deferred maintenance ever since it was built, post World War II. So it's got some work that needs to be done. Whether or not this will be a good investment, whether or not it'll be worth it, or there may be other priorities that are needed to be done. And this conversation has been going on for a while, but it does strike me as maybe at this point a little bit too little too late, because we're well into the planning process of these projects. And when you're even this far along, once renderings start coming out, I mean, sure, there may be some tweaking, but from my experience, it's largely, and therefore the decisions have largely been made, even if not totally inked yet. Willing to be disagreed with on this point, but it does make me wonder if this is, the debate on it is so much of a shuffling of the deck chairs of a decision that has already been made here. Kevin Williams saying, haven't seen the graphics, but one question is about location. Is this an area you have to travel to or near a decently populated area? I mean, we're talking about the whole downtown trench through, the whole north-south division of the downtown area. I-10 in between, what are the actual cross streets there? Let me be exact here, because, again, we're talking about the overall section, the whole reimagined I-10 corridor that has been talked about being between Mesa and essentially the Spaghetti Bowl, but really the downtown trench when you're talking about in between Stanton Street, I think that's a good way, and then Campbell. That's like the real highlighted area, and where the expansion of the trench would have to happen, and potentially that deck being put on. So if you want to think about it in those terms, that's kind of the highlighted area, and probably where some of the most fervent fights will come, because that's also the area where there could be, again, literally buildings being blown away because of the expansion of the trench, just shaking a chunk out of all of the areas that are in between Yandle and I-10, just south of there. So your thoughts on that, because I think we're back up there. So again, the question is if there should be that subsidy, I guess kind of the idea, but a dividend or, stimulus, probably closer to the reality of it because of the way it's been sent out previously. If gas hits over $4 a gallon in future months, that being floated, I can only imagine the kerfuffle on having that authorized or reauthorized from month to month here. But tell you what, we got to take that first break of the hour here right now. Coming back out of the break, get into our interviews for today about, that whole disruption and what it means for business and maybe even your business and how you can even think about it. So we'll be talking about that. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere. One thing that I look for, even with all of these disruptions that we talk about, is, cooking. I like home cooking. I like making stuff for me and my family, but really getting good flavors into it without, breaking the bank or making things too wild and crazy. I love having also been a world traveler, and while that's not totally on the table for the moment anyway, there is still a great local source to get quality flavored olive oils, extra virgin olive oils, and balsamic vinegars. Enhanced Flavors is your source. I've tried them, and they are pretty good here. Bottle in front of me right now, one of the ones that I am excited to try next, their white balsamic vinegar, specifically their white honey ginger blend. There's a lot of possibilities once you start using quality ingredients to really spice up your life. And of course, their olive oils imported from around the world: Tunisia, Italy, Greece, and Spain. And balsamic vinegars, if that's the name, it has to be coming from the Modena province of Italy. So you, of course, can find them online and see all of their 40 different varieties by visiting enhancedflavors.com, or find them out in the community. Again, they will be out this weekend at the Upper Valley Farmers Market this coming Sunday, the 27th, and the Hobby Lobby parking lot near, kind of where we were talking about right now, I-10 and Mesa. Go a little bit further west before you hit Donovan, and you'll find the Hobby Lobby there. So closer a bit to Mesa and Crossroads on Donovan there. But again, you can find them there at the Upper Valleys Farmers Market. Try your own samples, but in any case, find all the information about them and place your own order and get it locally delivered to you by visiting enhancedflavors.com. Again, enhancedflavors.com.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 westbound delays getting a little bit better, and that semi-big rig that's blocking the right lane. The right lane is back open now, but the right shoulder is blocked. I-10 westbound at Yarborough. An accident's blocking the two left lanes, Montana Avenue westbound at the Loop. Watch for a stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder, Loop 375 at Rojas Drive. And on the west side of town, an accident reported Artcraft and West Side Road. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
Have you ever heard the story of the Cuban immigrant behind the iconic Coors Light Silver Bullet can? Be sure to listen to this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey El Paso, this is Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. We've extended Ram truck months and deals are even bigger and better with 0% interest, more for your trade, huge savings, and a huge selection of new and certified pre-owned vehicles with more arriving daily.
Buy now and get huge savings during Ram Truck Month at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Save thousands in interest with 0 APR for 72 months on the all-new 2022 Jeep Wagoneer, full-size SUV with third-row seating. 2022 Ram trucks with 0 APR for 72 months, 0 down, 0 payments for 90 days. Upside down in your trade? We want it. Even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, we've partnered with even more aggressive lenders with great rates and terms for good credit, or even if your credit is less than perfect. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying your truck is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso strong. Excludes factory rebate at dealer discount plus DTNL. 0 APRs, $13.89 per thousand finance. On select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
Hi, Phil Swift here. When that next storm is barreling down, get prepared with the Flex Seal family of products. Floods can destroy your home. Push Flex base deep into cracks and holes to help prevent flooding. Seal doors and windows, patch leaky roofs and downspouts. Remember, when that storm is coming your way, keep your family safe and dry. Be prepared with the Flex Seal family of products. Available at flexsealproducts.com and fine retailers.
Wesley had IRS troubles.
They told me I owed them $43,000.
It got really bad.
Coming after my house, my car. I seriously thought that I was going to lose everything.
Wesley called Optima Tax Relief.
Oh, they were great people. Optima Tax. They know what they're doing.
Optima Tax Relief came through with flying colors.
I saved an incredible amount of money. Call Optima Tax Relief. Don't trust anybody else.
Call Optima for a free consultation. Call 800-783-8055. 800-783-8055.
Optima Tax Relief.
For details, visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
There won't be much substance on your news feed until you add us. Just like us or click on the link at KTSMradio.com. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or over on the various social media pages, including facebook.com/Talk El Paso. That's the main one, but also YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, where you can find us, Calvin Williams, Edgar Ortiz, and more tuning in, chiming in over there. A question about that graphic. You did find the map that we have. So this is that area that we're talking about, where the downtown trench here, if you're looking at that section, the highlighted portion, the area along I-10 that, proposals have come along. Here's some of the source details at the bottom of the screen there. Again, more or less highlighted as being in between, as we got it here, Santa Fe, actually. I may have misspoke earlier. But yeah, Santa Fe specifically, and as it turns off from Yandell and all over there. And then, of course, Campbell, I believe, is almost flares out at the other end there. So those are some of the sections that would be the most impacted there. Again, the highlighted ones, as you want to see there. So that's the area we're talking about. So yeah, just slightly a highly populated and traveled area, very much at debate here. But switching subjects here for a little bit, our interview today, again, with Benjamin Breier, author and former CEO of Kindred Healthcare, talking about some of the disruptions we're seeing in a lot of ways. There used to be the whole hashtag disrupt, idea. I mean, we've got car companies out there that don't own any cars. We're talking about Uber, Lyft, or similar. And, hotel companies, erstwhile hotel companies that don't actually own any hotel rooms when you're talking about your Airbnb and similar. So, I mean, we've seen a lot of disruption within industries, but now with this, the generally disruptive environment we're now in, where, your supply chain, we've all seen the empty shelves. But if you're the business that deals with that or relies on your products to be able to do that, how do you handle it? Not to mention when it comes down to employment, training, staffing, keeping people, work at home, work in office, navigating all of that can be, tricky at best. And then we all feel it here at home here. So talking more about that, got really into it with him. So here's that interview. Enjoy. Joining me now, we have Benjamin Breier, former Kindred Healthcare CEO and Forbes Books author of Intentional Disruption, Leadership Lessons in Healthcare, Business, and Beyond. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Andrew.
Absolutely, because there's a lot going on with a lot of issues that are just mentioned within that title there. So when it comes to your, knowledge, expertise, what you have dealt with in your experiences, disruption, it's an interesting term, one that has, I feel, maybe changed a little bit in the common interpretation over the last few years. So when you are talking about disruption, what kind of baselines do you expect people to understand?
Well, I think, people can really think about disruption at all different levels of their life. It can be personal, it can be professional. And in my life, Andrew, I've dealt with all of those things. We live in a world where, to me, it seems like every time you get out of bed in the morning and you turn your phone on, you have to take a little bit of a deep breath to see what you're going to read on your Twitter feed, what's happening in the world, what might be happening with your kids or your spouse or your partner, what might be happening at work. We live in this rapid information age where disruption seems to be around us at sort of all times. And really, my general philosophy and the reason that I wrote the book was to sort of describe what my path really has been to deal with those sorts of disruptions, many of which we're witnessing over the last couple of years and even currently today, in ways that just helped me feel more comfortable about being me and ultimately be more successful professionally and personally.
Yeah, the whole the disruption as a phrase, I feel like, was one of those kind of trendy phrases back in like the late 2000s, early 2010s, and even up to probably right before the pandemic. The idea of taking otherwise maybe seen as stolid industries and shaking them up, innovating in ways that may create problems for others, but if you're on the top of it, you might be in a better position because, innovate or die, kind of an idea behind of it all. But the way you're phrasing it there is very interesting. The idea that we have been seeing widespread and to an extent uncontrolled disruption over these last few years. And so it kind of goes against that whole hashtag disrupt mentality that had previously existed. Again, to my mind, it's open to interpretation, sure, but in that kind of transformation and having to deal with a shift in how this can even be considered, how have you, made that change even for yourself in your thinking?
Well, let's use something that I'm sure is your listeners are tired of talking about, but it's on everybody's mind. Let's just talk about COVID for a second and what the last 2.5 years have been like for most Americans and really for most people around the world in terms of the disruptions that they have felt. You have a global pandemic that turns the apple cart upside down on all of our sort of normal how we went about our life kind of activities. And you could say in your own definition, boy, that was a disruptive thing that happened to all of us, right? I don't think anybody would describe that as anything less than disruptive. My view on intentional disruption, Andrew, and how people can apply this into their own lives is, and a perfect example for myself is, well, what did you, the individual, do to counteract the disruption that you felt from COVID? Did you do anything? Did you just sit back on your couch for 2.5 years and watch Netflix and eat popcorn? That's okay. I mean, if that is what ultimately helped you with your own mental health to sort of get through it. I know for myself, I went from being over-traveled, overeating, overstressed, a little bit unhealthy, to taking advantage, Andrew, of those 2 years of COVID to get myself back to being more physically and mentally fit. And that included getting on a better exercise regimen. It included getting on a better eating regimen. It included taking advantage of the things that were disrupting me and being very intentional about my actions to sort of counteract what was happening and try and come out of it in a more positive way. And that's the best example that I can give you of sort of my philosophy around whether it's personal or professional is think about what you did in COVID and what you did to counteract those forces, and did you take advantage of it? And if you did, you were an intentional disruptor.
Interesting way to define it there. And yeah, again, it's the title of part of your book, the intentional aspect of it. I feel like a lot of people probably weren't able to totally latch on to the intentional aspect of the way you describe it there over these last couple of years. Yeah, I find no particular fault with anyone that managed to make their way through the pandemic and the current situation we're even still in, more or less whole. If it worked for you, good luck and Godspeed. Hope it can continue to do so. But there were certainly individuals such as yourself, like you mentioned there, that were able to take advantage or mold the situation a little bit more to their needs as much as is possible anyway. So when talking about that, then intentionality, I think, is the real key here. The idea of doing things purposefully and not just reacting and responding. I think for a lot of people, that may still seem like, okay, in such a global disruption and everything that came with it, upsetting the apple cart, as you said, how can you find in that kind of a situation intentionality? How can you find that then, okay, here is how we will then be proactive in what is otherwise such a reactive situation?
Well, I mean, it's about looking for the silver lining in anything, isn't it? It's about trying to be mentally strong enough to figure out your way through, whatever the situation that you're dealing with. It could be COVID, it could be a personal health issue, it could be a something difficult that's happening in your job, it could be something difficult that's happening within your family. And I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying that that it always works, and that getting yourself off the mat when you're dealing with disruption by sort of intentionally going around and finding ways through it is an easy path forward. It hasn't been easy for me in my life as I've looked back and explored, many years of sort of thinking about that. But it really is, Andrew, I think, about the idea of trying to, at least for me, okay, what I have found in my life is that when the world is sort of pushing back down on me, whether it's a regulatory change, whether it's a global geopolitical change, whether it's a COVID change, that instead of just sort of sitting back on defense and kind of letting the world as it will kind of kick the what out of yourself, I like to go on offense. I like to be strategic about the way I think about things. I don't want to sit around and just settle for, oh, woe is me, it's really hard, and so I'm just going to let the world kind of kick me back. And I think, Andrew, the core of all of that is that each individual listener that you have really has to think about what their his or her core values are, and when you're thinking about that intentionality, being focused on staying true to what your core values are and what your core principles are, to me, that's always the most important part about how you can then ultimately play offense and be strategic to counteract some of the interactions that are happening, in each of our lives.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Benjamin Breier, former Kindred Healthcare CEO and Forbes Books author of Intentional Disruption, Leadership Lessons in Healthcare, Business, and Beyond. Want to find anything more about him, that book, or his other work, you can find him at benbreier.com. That's BenBreier.com. So we've talked a bit about kind of personal situations here and dealing with it in your own life, and that has certainly been applicable for a lot of people. But particularly what you're talking about in your book expands a bit beyond that, about looking at the disruptive environment and then how to deal with it organizationally. I mean, you, in your previous positions, being a CEO and dealing with disruptions. So, and that is something we're still seeing now. I mean, there's a lot of disruption within, pick an aspect of life or of industry at this point, in the employment sector, in the service sector, in the supply sector, in the transportation. There's not much out there that you can find that hasn't been disrupted, disturbed, upheaval in some way over these last couple of years. So, more organizationally speaking, as you kind of go into, how do you begin to even look at managing that from that level?
Well, I think you're exactly right. I mean, there's almost virtually no aspect of our professional lives that any of your listeners are probably listening to that they haven't been touched by some of the commentary that you just mentioned. So I'll give you a couple of key things. I think, Andrew, at least that as I think about my own professional life and how I try to apply success, both to managing a large employee base, both to dealing with making really hard disruptive actions, and really trying to keep our team together, both as a teammate and as a leader, if you will, because you're often in both of those positions. I'd say there's 3 or 4 things that really, I think, in my mind, are really sort of the most important things that anybody out there really, when they look into the mirror and they think about, am I this or am I that, I would say is a really important aspect of getting through a lot of what we are all dealing with in the world. The first is, and I'm sure you've heard people talk about this a lot, but I think resiliency is an underused term for what is really maybe arguably one of the most important adjectives that we can describe ourselves at in this day and age that we're living in, being resilient. I try and describe all the time, whether it's to coworkers or whether it's to my children or whether it's to people that I'm talking to, other CEOs, et cetera. Andrew, life is not a straight line of constant successes and constant wins. We have a series of wins and we have a series of failures and we have a series of wins and we have a series of setbacks. And you sort of go up and down, right, as you think about your own sort of life trajectory. And it's who is resilient enough to kind of keep pushing through, not getting too high when you're having the winning moments, but certainly not allowing yourself to get too beat down when you're having some of those more difficult moments. So resiliency is something that I think all of us need to use and be aware of much more. I'd say the second thing that for a leader, particularly in this environment, is that we have to really get better at showing empathy for what others are going through. And I think if you look at the successful CEOs and leaders that are out there today, and you really think about what is working so well for them, it's those that I think are really showing some level of compassion and empathy for what others are going through, and seeing the world from a different lens than just sort of your chair at the top floor of your building or wherever you're operating from. And I've really tried to use, both resiliency and empathy to really connect with my teammates, whether it was in my organization or in people that, that I'm sort of around. I'd say the last thing that I think all need a little bit more of in this world, and social media and disinformation and things that we're not sure what's true and what's not true in the world. When you're in a leadership position, boy, you better be honest and transparent in this day and age, and you better make your word known as binding when you communicate to those teammates, when you talk about either the good things or the bad things that are happening. I think, if you can mix in a little resiliency with a little empathy, with a little transparency, you got a chance to be a successful leader, even in this very difficult environment that you described.
Again, guest right now is Benjamin Breier, former Kindred Health CEO and Forbes Books author on Intentional Disruption, Leadership Lessons in Healthcare Business and Beyond. If you want to find out more about him, benbreier.com. That's BenBreier.com. We're due for that next break right now. So coming out of this break, we'll be talking more with Ben about his book, his work, and what this might be able to apply for our listeners out there. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. The new Omicron subvariant of the virus that causes COVID-19, BA2, is now in El Paso. El Paso's health authority, Dr. Hector Ocaranza, told KFOX 14 today that one case has been reported and there's no need for concern outside of being vaccinated and practicing good hygiene. BA2 is the latest subvariant of Omicron, the dominant strain of the SARS-CoV-2 virus that causes COVID-19. While the origin of BA2 is still unclear, it has quickly become the dominant strain in many countries, including India, Denmark, and South Africa. It's continuing to spread in Europe, Asia, and many other parts of the world as well. But this is the first time the subvariant is identified in our community. And CEOs of Alaska Airlines, American Airlines, Atlas Air Worldwide, Delta, FedEx Express, Hawaiian Airlines, JetBlue, and Southwest, along with United and UPS, have all signed a letter asking the U.S. government to lift federal mask mandates on air travel. I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
I-10 westbound at Yarborough, a semi-big rig has been blocking the right lane. That's back open, but the right shoulder's blocked, and there's still a backup. I-10 westbound from Loop 375 to the 54 Patriot, you're down for a 7-minute delay. A crash at Montana Avenue westbound at Joe Battle. It's blocking the two left lanes. And watch for an injury accident, Dyer at Hondo Pass. Harry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
In Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We have finally moved out of the 60s and we are now in the 70s, but we're soon to jump right into the 80s as temperatures continue to rise as we make our way through the weekend. In fact, this weekend, we could be flirting with near record warmth. By next week, though, we've got another wind maker coming. It not only brings stronger winds, but a chance for some rain and cooler air.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. If cold candidate calls aren't turning into hot hiring leads, then you need Indeed, because Indeed's powerful hiring platform makes it easy to attract, screen, and interview candidates all from one place. Find your next great hire visiting Indeed.com/credit.
Is your current home loan the right fit for you? Near historically low rates combined with rising home values means that you could have more home equity than you might imagine. And if you're considering a refi, an expertly chosen loan from Loan Depot could save you thousands. Ask about our smart term loans, cash out, and over 300 loan options to find just the right mortgage loan for you. Call now, 866-888-LOAN, or go to LoanDepot.com. Loan Depot, where home means everything. Rates are subject to change. Equal housing opportunity lender. And MLS number 174457. Licensed in all 50.
Hey, Mario and Courtney here. We know life is better together.
Mm-hmm.
And Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to make life's moments amazing.
It's red carpet season. Smart Mouth's 24-hour power of fresh breath lets us know we won't be worried about bad breath.
So go to smartmouth.com/radio to save 20% or find it at your favorite store.
Remember, our favorite tip for up-close, better together moments starts with Smart Mouth at smartmouth.com/radio.
Just 2 rinses a day give you 24 hours of confidence.
Are you covered by Medicare and Medicaid? Well, El Paso Health Plus is the plan for you. As a local Medicare Advantage plan, we can offer our members more. Call us at 833-742-3125 or ephmedicare.com. El Paso Health Plus.
Staples has your remote workspace covered with functional furniture and organizational items curated by Staples Work From Home Style Squad. This week, save up to $100 on select chairs. Offer ends 3/26, limit 2, in-store only. Explore solutions for your remote workspace at Staples. This report is sponsored by Staples Stores.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
From the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Welcome back here to Talk El Paso, airing on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Joined here again by Benjamin Breier, Forbes Books author of Intentional Disruption, Leadership Lessons in Healthcare, Business, and Beyond, and former Kindred Healthcare CEO. Ben, thanks for sticking around with us here.
Great to be with you.
So we were talking a little bit before, again, about your book, the whole idea of intentional disruption and particularly reaction to the otherwise disruptions that have been happening over these last couple of years. Now, of course, we're talking a little bit about this from the leadership level, and something that leadership and, again, all the various sectors of life that have been affected by this, one common thread that has affected, again, pick one, an industry, a sector, and I'll be hard pressed to not find an impact of this, of what has been called the Great Resignation, of people leaving positions. I mean, there was, of course, a lot of layoffs that happened going into the pandemic and the shutdowns that came with the restrictions that were being imposed, those kind of things. And a lot of people then not finding their way back to those positions that may have otherwise been expected to, particularly in service sector, restaurants, particularly seeming hard hit. But this applies across most facets. Again, you'd be hard pressed to find one where there has not been some kind of major change, major shift, major issue in staffing. So in looking at that kind of a disruption and what's needing to be done with it, where do you even begin to start to address it?
Well, I mean, I think the first thing is we have to acknowledge that it's real. I mean, and we can sit around and complain about it, as all of us are apt to do, that it's different today than it was a couple of years ago. But the facts are the facts, that COVID supercharged, if you will, what particularly in the service industry, employees and teammates from all across the country expect to get from their jobs and from what they do. And technology has created an environment, and COVID, I would say, added to it, where people feel more comfortable in many cases working from home. They are able to do things online in terms of sales and in terms of finding ways to make a living. There have been, I think anybody would agree, whether you're not taking a political stance, rightly or wrongly, that there have been massive sort of government subsidies that have been pushing through the system over the last couple of years. So there's been all of this noise, both health, technology, government subsidization of income generation. You have a younger generation moving up that's more socially dynamic around how they communicate and what they're looking for. And all of that has led to this cauldron of what you've called, Andrew, I think rightfully so, this Great Resignation. So if we acknowledge that all of those things have happened, then you can pick and choose. Maybe it was a third for one and a third for the other and a third, whatever the weights of all of those are. We sort of are where we are now, which is coming out of COVID, which is a reduction of, I think, a lot of those government subsidies that existed. And in my opinion, for the most part, we have a set of American workers out there that are still very, very interested in working, in being productive, in producing incomes for their families, in dealing with, all of the things that we have for many generations about people who want to get ahead and do better. The question for employers, and the question you ask, Andrew, is what do we as employers have to do better to convince these coworkers who have been a part of this Great Resignation to want to be a part of and stay longer? And I think what has become very clear and very obvious about that is that employees today are no longer willing to just stay committed to a job just for the paycheck. They can go across the street and get that same paycheck, maybe better. They can go do something from home and maybe get something better. What we are learning about companies, both big and small today, is that if you want to reduce the great resignation in your own company and you want to increase retention, you've got to have a mission, a culture, and a system of values that people that come to work for you appreciate and can be aligned with and feel like they are a part of something bigger than just their job. And that means if you're a server at a restaurant, or if you're working for an airline, or if you're working in any industry across America today, I still think that same rule applies. And so that means that we have to, as we talked about earlier in another segment, Andrew, we have to be much more efficient at the way we communicate and at the way we are transparent about what the company's goals are and what we are trying to accomplish collectively together as a team. We have to be much more willing to share in both the upside and the downside of what's happening in the business. We've got to give people flexibility to work when they want, where they want, how they want, when that's available for companies to be able to provide that. And we've got to, most, I think, importantly, back to this mission, culture, values thing, we've really got to find ways as employers, Andrew, to make sure that the employee knows that what we're trying to do, I think every day, is not just about, the profit, the bottom line, driving another dollar of earnings or whatever it is, although, that's important in terms of keeping businesses going. We've got to do more about giving back to the community. We've got to do more about making sure that we're being responsible citizens in whatever markets that we are in. We've got to make sure that as we think about what we are striving to do from a business perspective, that our teammates feel like that's a part of what they are trying to accomplish as well. My feeling is that when you look across great companies today, both big and small, those that are doing that the right way, where they are really transparent about mission, value, and culture, and really feeling appreciative of what those teammates that work for them are doing, are having much, much higher success than people who are being very rigid in the way that business always was run and not evolving into the way the business needs to run into the future.
Again, if you're just joining us, guest right now is Benjamin Breier, former Kindred Healthcare CEO and Forbes book author of Intentional Disruption, Leadership Lessons in Healthcare Business and Beyond. Again, want to find anything more about him, his website, benbreier.com. That's BenBreier.com. And so what you're talking about there is very interesting, the idea of having to shift and change, because regardless of whether even your specific industry is, I mean, I feel like the competition for employees has taken on its own tenor and fervor. I mean, there's not that the whole idea of the 50 years on the job, get the gold watch and retire, has really been in existence much over the last decades at this point. I mean, it really has waned in its own right. But I mean, there's even advice out there now to individuals saying that if you're not leaving a job and going to a different company industry thing, that your earnings will be lower at this point because of, sign-on bonuses, a higher comparative pay, those kind of a thing. So not dealing with that and saying, well, we've done what we always have, kind of it's kind of a slow path to, well, kind of feels like a long while for a short period. I'll be perfectly honest with you.
That's right. I think there's no question about that. And as an employer, you've got to be transparent and honest with yourself as well, to say that, look, people are going to, it's not personal sometimes, people are going to leave for other opportunities. Now, trying to be proactive around salaries, around benefits, and around overall compensation, trying to stay one step ahead of the game. I mean, one of the things that I think employers have a hard time recognizing is that if you're debating, between doing a 3%, salary increase for somebody or a 5% salary increase, and you're trying to hold the line on what your labor costs are, you're really not doing your job to weigh against what it costs in terms of replacement costs to go out and find somebody, to replace that same person who may leave you for, another opportunity. But having said that, what you said is absolutely a real reality. And so what does that mean? It means that companies today better be invested in making sure that they are constantly recruiting, constantly have a talent pipeline coming into the company, and constantly recognizing that when you get talent in the company, you better put some infrastructure around how to train, how to manage, and how to get people to be able to do more sooner, because you're going to ultimately have to deal with some of this turnover that exists in, the way companies run today. So there are ways to be proactive about that. And I just think that companies that do a really good job about that are in a much better place than some that don't.
I think that bears out more often than not here. So when it comes to then, dealing with that, I mean, a lot of this advice can seem to be like, well, this applies to, huge companies, the ones that have, the infrastructure to have whole departments dedicated to these ideas. But, for those on even the, medium or small scale on this, are there ways to kind of implement these ideas, even if they're looking at, well, we're a small team, we are all in the, same building, same room even. Can I have a pipeline? How can I implement these kind of ideas and structures to help my business? What would you say to that kind of a scale?
Well, first, no matter whether you're big or small. So let's focus on being small. Let's talk about being a small auto shop, in whatever community you want to describe. I mean, you can still have a collegial effort towards really talking about what the mission of the business is. You can still have real values that people appreciate in terms of what it means to work there and be a part of. You can do things like profit share and make people feel like they are part of the company in ways that are not just sort of as hourly, salaried folks. You can give people time off, on a day a week. You can have more flexible work hours. You can find lots of different paths that I think are available to even small employers to really find a way to get colleagues that are working within your organization to feel better about doing that. I would also say, though, that even though I understand that not everybody has a gigantic HR or recruiting infrastructure where you can constantly recruit, I do think that even if you're working in a 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 employee shop, you should at all times have some advertising out there on Job Finder, on whatever the various job boards are. You constantly have to be looking for more talent, even whether you're big or small. So I would say those two things I think are really important, no matter what size company you have.
Going back to one of your earlier points, here's the final question here. You were talking about resiliency and needing to bake that into it. I mean, that definitely needs to apply across the spectrum of size of operations as well. Another way I've heard it described recently is the idea of anti-fragility. Not just that you need to be able to weather the storm, but that you need to be able to grow through it. So, I mean, the idea of fragility, it being that if something fragile gets pressure applied to it, it fractures and it breaks. And then the opposite, that would be that when pressure is applied to something, if it's anti-fragile, it then grows stronger. So is that the kind of thing that you're seeing, I mean, of the successes coming out of the pandemic and into the new reality that we're going to be inhabiting, whatever the actual description of it may be, that this concept of being able to actually grow through adversity will probably be important going forward in, near medium term?
I think it's a great example that you just gave, and I think it's exactly, to the point of what I'm trying to describe. And again, I think both of us have to acknowledge it's not always easy just to say, you're going to grow through it and you're going to be tougher even when times are down. But, I try and tell folks, all the time, every once in a while, just take a deep breath, try and do your best to take a deep breath. Mental health is really, really important. I think we've got a much bigger awareness and greater awareness of that today. And each individual has to do what they have to do to keep themselves strong mentally and physically, which is why, I'm such a believer in, good diet and exercise and making sure that you're doing it. But to just take a deep breath, and particularly for the younger generation to say, you're going to work your way through this. It's going to be okay. I would say, sometimes, Andrew, focusing on what's right, not necessarily what's easy, is a really important thing, I think, for people to really think about. And again, as I said earlier, just remember that success isn't a straight line. It's a series of failures and successes, and it's stacked up along the way. And if you can stay on the right path, you will find your way towards success in the future. That's for sure.
Again, joining us right now has been Benjamin Breier, former Kindred Healthcare CEO and Forbes book author of Intentional Disruption, Leadership Lessons in Healthcare, Business, and Beyond. Again, to find anything more information about him, his work, his book, benbreier.com. That's BENBREIER.com. So, Ben, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today about your work, expertise, how it applies to the current situation, and lessons people might be able to take from it and apply it in their own lives here today.
Thanks, Andrew. It's been great to be with you guys.
All right. Again, thank you to Ben for speaking with us. We are due for that next break right now. So coming out of this break, we'll probably have a very short time. So probably just open up those phone lines here. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Earlier accident, Montana Avenue westbound at the Loop has still got one of the 2 left lanes blocked there. Trans Mountain eastbound at Tom Mays Access Road, a stalled vehicle is blocking the right shoulder. Zaragoza at Rojas, an accident reported there. Injury accident at Dyer and Hondo Pass. And watch for an accident downtown Mesa Street at Mills Avenue. Take Stanton to get around at Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. If cold candidate calls aren't turning into hot hiring leads, then you need Indeed, because Indeed's powerful hiring platform makes it easy to attract, screen, and interview candidates all from one place. Find Find your next great hire visiting Indeed.com/credit.
There's only one dental office in El Paso where beautiful, top-quality, long-lasting dental implants are very affordable. 1995implants.com. Other places charge $3, $4, $5, up to $6,000 per tooth. Please don't ever pay that much for dental implants. Instead, come to 1995implants.com. Our price includes the implant, abutment, and crown, plus a free consultation with the dentist, free standard x-rays, and convenient financing plans to fit your budget. With help from 1995implants.com, you'll no longer have cracked or missing teeth, and you'll finally be able to say goodbye to loose, old, wobbly, worn-out, uncomfortable dentures. If you're ready for a brand new smile that family and friends will rave about, then come to 1995implants.com, conveniently located right here in El Paso. For more information, see our website, 1995implants.com. That's 1995implants.com. Se habla español.
Hey guys, it's Edge Martinez. My family's gathering in the kitchen. It's our favorite place to catch up. Keep germs out. I use Lysol on countertops, tables, and the fridge handle. Nothing kills more viruses on more surfaces than Lysol disinfectant spray. Lysol, what it takes to protect. Use as directed.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Your host, Andrew J. Polk here. Very short segment here. We talked about a lot of stuff going on right now, and we'll continue, of course, the discussion here in the next hour. Go ahead and open up those phone lines, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM, because a lot of discussion happening here. A lot of comments. RJ, the government reaction to COVID, the lockdown, damage to small and medium businesses or shuttered them, allowed billionaires to increase their wealth 50 to 100% and flooded the economy with COVID dollars and maybe gas dollars to increase inflation and destroy the dollar. I'm not quite with you on that very last point there, because a lot of them are still paid in dollars, among other things. But, I mean, the concerns that come with this, that also can come along with the whole proposal of that whole gas stimulus, raises questions about, is this being managed right here? But we'll have to get into that here the next hour. One item I wanted to get to here real quick, one of those, op-eds that we mentioned here right now, actually a little bit of news coming out as of this hour here, El Paso Inc. reporting that one of the authors there, David Jerome, has actually put his resignation in here as is the CEO of the El Paso Chamber effective April 15th because, according to the Chamber, according to El Paso Inc., Jerome has accepted an offer from the Hollywood Chamber of Commerce, and that Stephen Vogelweed, I think I'm saying that right, the Chamber's VP of Innovation and Performance, will serve as interim CEO. So, I mean, geez, I wasn't expecting that today, but hey, things are always moving here. So, okay, we got to take that next break. Coming out of the top of the hour, we'll get to more calls on the line. So if you want to call in, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. More on that, all the discussion, and of course, the top of the hour news coming up here on News Radio 690 KTSM. More of that after the break. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Watch for some slowing Montana Avenue westbound at the Loop because of an earlier accident. I-10 eastbound at McRae, a stalled vehicle is blocking the right shoulder. Zaragoza at Rojas, an accident reported there. I-10 eastbound got some slowing from the Loop to the 54 Patriot with a 5-minute delay. And a crash downtown North Mesa Street at Mills Avenue takes Stanton as an alternate. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Congratulations to all the winners from the iHeartRadio Music Awards. Because of everyone who got vaccinated, we were able to celebrate our favorite artists together live.
Shout out to all who got vaccinated and gotten their kids vaccinated.
So events like this are safer and just more enjoyable for all.
If you missed it, check out the Red Carpet Live presented by U.S. Department of Health and Human Services on iHeartRadio's Facebook and YouTube channel. Get vaccinated, get boosted, and find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov.
Freedom of speech lives here.
To me, freedom of speech is being able to say anything you want.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay informed at KTSMradio.com. News on the hour and the hat. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook.
The Treasury Department is reporting 645,000 Americans hadn't gotten their third stimulus check by last fall. Each person qualified was authorized to receive up to $1,400 starting in March of last year from the American Rescue Plan. The missing funds add up to $1.6 billion. President Biden is being pressed about European concerns that a figure like former President Trump may get elected again. Speaking at a NATO summit, Biden said his focus in any election is retaining a Democratic majority in the House and Senate so he can continue to pass legislation and deal with American foreign policy in a rational way. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell will vote no on the confirmation of Supreme Court nominee Ketanji Brown Jackson.
I went into the Senate process with an open mind, but after studying the nominee's record and watching her performance this week, I cannot and will not support Judge Jackson.
McConnell argued Jackson repeatedly deflected basic questions about her judicial philosophy. As the U.S. plans to welcome 100,000 Ukrainian refugees to the country, Haitian activists in South Florida are asking President Biden to offer the same protections to Haitians. Lisa Taylor reports.
They claim Haitians are trying to escape civil unrest and a humanitarian crisis. State Representative Dottie Joseph says we have an obligation through national and international law, plus just humanity, to allow these migrants to present their claims to a judge. Catholic Legal Services Vanessa Joseph says using the pandemic as an excuse to keep a group of asylum seekers out of the country is irresponsible. I'm Lisa Taylor.
Former President Trump is seeking $72 million in damages in a lawsuit against Hillary Clinton and the Democratic National Committee. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. The only Latina on death row in Texas is getting bipartisan support in her case for clemency. A group of lawmakers say they have questions about the trial that found Melissa Lucio guilty of capital murder in the death of her 2-year-old. Republican Representative Jeff Leach and other lawmakers are asking the governor to step in now that 4 jurors at Lucio's trial are questioning their guilty verdict. Professional athletes and performers in New York City no longer have to comply with the private sector coronavirus vaccine mandate. Scott Pringle reports.
Mayor Adams says he's correcting an unfair rule that let unvaccinated players on away teams play in New York, despite unvaccinated home players like Kyrie Irving being forced to sit out. He says this vaccine exemption will also help New York's economic recovery.
The dishwasher, the bartender, all feeds into this nightlife industry. And by putting our home teams on equal playing field, we increase their chances of winning.
Adams is being bombarded by criticism from municipal unions who represent people forced to get the shot or who lost their jobs for refusing the jab.
The Cal State University system is getting rid of SAT and ACT exam requirements when it comes to the admissions process for undergraduates. Dina Kodiak reports.
The decision was made yesterday during the CSU Board of Trustees meeting. Officials said students can still submit their test scores if they want to place better in English and math classes. According to a press release, CSU officials have thought about removing the test requirement even before the pandemic. Because of the pandemic, the test score requirement has been suspended since the start of the current academic year.
A toy tiger is now in police custody after being mistaken for a real tiger. Police in Oldham, England received a call about a tiger on the loose after a resident thought they spotted a real tiger resting on grass. It was determined to be a toy once officers arrived at the scene. Oldham police say the toy they named Tony was booked into the property room at the station. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
This report is sponsored by Blindster. Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Blindster blinds are easy to install and guaranteed to fit. Don't overpay for new blinds. Shop Blindster today and save big. Blindster.com.
Hi, Phil Swift here for the Flex Seal family of products. You know, there's a lot of ways to protect your home. You could dig a moat. You could bubble wrap it. Or you could train a pack of wolves to protect it. But the best way is with the Flex Seal family of products. So when you need to patch, bond, seal, repair, and stop leaks fast, get the Flex Seal family of products. Available at FlexSealProducts.com and fine retailers.
Your favorite radio station. Yeah, this one right here. And thousands more just like it are streaming on the free iHeartRadio app. And now you can talk to them with a single tap. Play any iHeartRadio station and tap the talkback mic on the screen to send your message in seconds. Ooh, and it's True Crime Week. Check our dangerously good lineup, including the new iHeart Original podcast, What Happened to Sally Beale. Download the free iHeartRadio app today and discover music, radio, and podcasts you'll love.
iHeartRadio. Hey, El Paso, this is Ivan Ochoa, General Manager from Sunland Park Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Fiat. We've extended Ram truck months, and deals are even bigger and better with 0% interest, more for your trade, huge savings, and a huge selection of new and certified pre-owned vehicles with more arriving daily.
Buy now and get huge savings during Ram Truck Month at Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Save thousands in interest with 0 APR for 72 months on the all-new 2022 Jeep Wagoneer, full-size SUV with third-row seating. 2022 Ram trucks with 0 APR for 72 months, 0 down, 0 payments for 90 days. Upside down on your trade? We want it. Even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, we've partnered with even more aggressive lenders with great rates and terms for good credit, or even if your credit is less than perfect. All military personnel and all first responders receive an additional discount. Thank you for your service. Sunland Park Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. Where buying your truck is fun. At I-10 at Sunland Park Drive or online at sunlandparkdodge.com. Estamos en tu esquina, El Paso, El Paso Strong. Excludes factory rebate at dealer discount plus DTNL. 0 APRs, $13.89 per thousand finance. On select vehicles with approved credit. Offers not combined.
The number one pick is in Wendy's Breakfast, the official breakfast of March Madness. Choose your starting lineup, like the Breakfast Baconator or Honey Butter Chicken Biscuit, and enjoy oven-baked bacon, fresh cracked eggs, seasoned breakfast potatoes, and Simply OJ. Choose wisely, choose Wendy's.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch, Andrew J. Polk. Interesting comments that come in there. A lot of conversation about some of the situations we're looking at here, and the comments often give me life. And I'd like to think I'm never usually surprised, but sometimes it comes in, such as someone over on the Twitch page saying, "Andrew, you are so handsome." Like, sure, I'll take the compliment, though it's with a grain of salt since it's coming from reading this right, Poosicle being the name there. So. The comments giveth and the comments taketh away. Anyway, if you want to leave your 2 cents in any of those locations, more than welcome to. Again, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk, where you can find us over there. Claiming it's serious. So, again, I didn't doubt your sincerity, though. Just the name there gives me reason to a little bit, don't judge me by my name. Okay, fair enough. But, well, you got to admit, it gives me pause at the very least. Anyway, more comments coming in over there. And we do have that phone line open. The number to call there, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. The number to call there if you want to get on the line here. Let's go through a couple of the other comments here. John Browse had an on the whole deck conversation, the downtown deck or porch as he's putting it, saying it'll only work if it's higher than necessary since our current overhead city bridges are now 2 feet too low. Changes required by national DOT regulations and have to be replaced. That's kind of, to my understanding, already been on the docket for what's going to happen there. Let's go back a little bit to the whole trolley conversation about, what's going to be happening with those bridges and the whole route into downtown, because to my understanding, it's already going to need to be demolished for whatever's going to go on I-10 anyway. So I'm not sure that changes the plans much, but or at least the impact anyway, because, yeah, that's going to have to see the kibosh put on it here. So, again, if you wanted to call in, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We'll get to more calls on the line here in a second. I think we got another one coming in right now as well. But, again, we got on the line right now, starting with Barbara on the west side here with us. Barbara, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew, for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to respond to Raul's crude remark yesterday regarding the facts that I called in about, in my opinion, and they were undisputable facts. And his question is, why did I not complain when President Trump was in office?
Mm-hmm.
Well, how can you complain about a president who gave all the tools that the Border Patrol and ICE needed to secure the border, to protect us a president who would call China on the carpet about fentanyl, a president who stopped catch and release and who built a wall and who did the Remain in Mexico policy in Title 42. All those benefited the American citizen, and they also benefited Mexico and the Central American countries. How can I complain about that? And how can I call and complain about energy independence? I mean, President Trump didn't go hat in hand to Russia and ask them to negotiate a contract with Iran, and he didn't ask Venezuela, Iran, or Russia for oil and gas because we were energy independent, unlike what President Biden has done. And let's talk affirmative action. President Trump did not hire people based on race, color, or gender. He hired people who had talent, who could get the job done, and who had knowledge in the areas that they were going to be placed in. Look what he did with Vice President Pence. He spearheaded Operation Warp Speed and got us the vaccines. Very capable man. Compared him to Kamala. She goes to Poland and she stands on the podium and she looks down and she says, well, look, here I am. And she says, in East Poland, West Poland. Like if it was a big event, something historic like President Trump at the DMZ with Kim Jong-un. She didn't even know where she was at. That was very embarrassing on the world stage. So I don't know what he wants me to call in about when President Trump did everything. He did everything for the American worker. I think everybody remembers when Disney fired about 200 employees and they replaced them with foreign nationals that had H-1B visas. And the only way that they could get their severance package is if they trained their replacement. How shameful is that? And how about the TVA, the Tennessee Valley Authority? President Trump, when he heard 200 employees are about to lose their jobs to foreign workers, he fired the chair at the TVA. And he fired a board member, both of individuals that President Trump had actually put in their positions. And right after that, he didn't stop there. He issued an executive order asking every federal agency to do an audit to make sure that none of them were hiring foreign workers replacing American workers. So how could you complain about that? Hey, how about the First Step Act? Even Van Jones, far left guy, supported President Trump and First Step Act at the White House. And how about corporations? This is one Raul knows about. Investment, capital investments. What did President do? Everybody. He didn't select just big business. Anybody who had a capital investment could depreciate that capital investment that year. He worked for everybody, big or small. Unlike President Biden, what does he do? When he did the COVID monies for farmers, they were for blacks because they had it harder than someone who owned a farm that was white. He selects jobs. They're union jobs under his America First plan. There isn't anything there for small companies that don't have union workers. Why would I complain when we had such a president who was focused on making America better, keeping us the world power? There's nothing to complain about. And Raul's only ache is the 11 million illegals that President Trump did not deport. Well, he did deport MS-13, who were killing our children, who were slaughtering them with knives in the street, who were killing because they didn't join their gangs. He had a goal. He had a plan to reach a goal to get it done. And he complains about 11 million illegal immigrants. President Trump was not a politician. President Biden has been there 40, 50 years, and he's made a mess of everything. Yesterday, I asked the question, what's going to happen to all those people that aren't going to be housed in the Endeavor program? Today we found out, I got a text. They're releasing Cubans, Venezuelans, all the others that they were sending back, they're releasing them on parole. That's thousands upon thousands, in addition to those that they're going to house. So there's no clear pathway to making sense of what this president does.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of problems with border security, border issues that have come out of every part of this administration. There being no clear plan amongst them here, but even more broadly to your initial point there, I mean, I had plenty of issues with the Trump administrations, plenty of issues with the Obama administrations, and plenty of issues with the current administration, as are reasonable to talk about here. I mean, among other things, there were certainly failures of the Trump administration. I mean, they built the wall, of course, the sections that we see here in our area and around the further parts of it, but getting Mexico to pay for it directly didn't happen, even if through the diplomatic avenues of it, essentially got Mexico to virtually build their own wall. Definitely, I mean, that's going to be seen in our area with the Guardia Nacional, the Mexican National Guard, and the complete changeover to the way that they even activated them in the long term. So, but to the larger point there, kind of ridiculous to ask someone to say, and therefore, why don't you support the exact same points that I do? And I mean, it's a ridiculous rhetorical point here. So why don't you think the exact same way I do here? Like, no, that's not how this works here. So if you're expecting someone to say, and therefore, because I'm asking to, you have to support what I'm talking about, good luck with that as a rhetorical device. Just speaking frankly on it there. But for the larger part, what you're talking about there about issues or the support that you saw for the Trump administration, I mean, yeah, you can directly trace the availability of the vaccine in the incarnations we've seen to the work during the Trump administration. I mean, some of the groundwork, even the policies that are still largely in place, even if they are kind of waning, as you mentioned, when it comes to immigration, still very much from the Trump administration, because this one has seemed to struggle to put together a coherent and cogent one, even if there are some movement here, but whether that actually comes from the administration is a reasonable question to be put forth. I mean, some actual concrete suggestions coming from, say, the El Paso Congresswoman, but that's another kind of issue to get into here. But yeah, I mean, to say that, and therefore, why don't you agree with me? I mean, that's essentially what it comes down to when everyone says that. Why weren't you complaining back then, or were you? I mean, there are still plenty of issues. I mean, I think there's a sense that there's a core block, or that anyone that calls into the show, if they're not of the other persuasion, are core and hardcore supporters of the former president. That just has not borne out in my experience when it comes down to people, because again, there are reasonable things. There is no politician that should not be held accountable for it. And sure, I know you said that you don't feel that he was a politician, but he held political office. He was still functioning at it, even if he wasn't a career politician, so to speak. They should all be held accountable. And anyone who says, and therefore they can do no wrong, I'm a little bit concerned about their perspective and what can or cannot be done from that here. So I tell you what, we got to take that next break. I appreciate the point and the call here, but coming out of the break, we'll get to more of the calls on the line here because there's a lot more to get to here. So again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Watch for some slowing Montana Avenue westbound at the Loop because of an earlier accident. I-10 eastbound at McRae, a stalled vehicle is blocking the right shoulder. Zaragoza at Rojas, an accident reported there. I-10 eastbound got some slowing from the Loop to the 54 Patriot with a 5-minute delay. And a crash downtown North Mesa Street at Mills Avenue takes Stanton as an alternate. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Gila River Hotels and Casinos.
Experience bigger, bolder, and better at Phoenix, Arizona's newest resort with new guest rooms, suites, pools, and amenities. Taste the here and now at our new rooftop restaurant and lounge. It's time to own your moment, so you do you. For more information, visit playatgila.com.
iHeartRadio Earth is here with little tips for a healthier planet. It sure feels good to step into a warm car after letting it heat up for a few minutes. However, this practice wastes gas, increases emissions, and pollutes the air. Limit idling your car to no more than 3 minutes to save money at the gas station and improve air quality. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living, or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
Hey, Mario and Courtney here. We know life is better together.
And Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to make life's moments amazing.
It's red carpet season. Smart Mouth's 24-hour power of fresh breath lets us know we won't be worried about bad breath.
So go to smartmouth.com/radio to save 20% or find it at your favorite store.
Remember, our favorite tip for up-close, better together moments starts with Smart Mouth at smartmouth.com/radio.
Just 2 rinses a day give you 24 hours of confidence.
So spring flowers aren't exactly in full bloom, but the deals at Kohl's are. Right now, you can get tech gear for under $15, sandals for everyone in the family for just $24.99, and Black & Decker kitchen appliances for less than $30. You can also earn Kohl's Cash and get it all with free store pickup. Things are looking brighter already. Select styles, offers in March 27. Some exclusions apply. See StoreKohl's.com for details.
Research shows people remember radio ads that remind them of the past. So to help you remember that Liberty Mutual Insurance Company customizes your home insurance so you only pay for what you need, here's an ad that'll really take you back.
Back in my day, I heard a voice from the radio say, Liberty Mutual customizes my home insurance so I only pay for what I need. I'm getting on in years now, but heavens to Betsy, there are some things an old fella like me just never forgets.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty. Teens in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod, noun. The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council. Visit adoptuskids.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Your host, Andrew J. Polk here. A lot of comments coming in over on the many various outlets we are, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Good old Poosicle over there. Some interesting comments there during Barbara's time on there. And questions about calling in. And we do have that phone line open. Well, full up at the moment, anyway. It's open, but you got to wait for some space to show up because that number to call is, as we got on screen, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. If you want to, it's more than available here. Calvin Williams said, can we read into the issues with the previous administration, issues with the previous administration, and plenty of issues with this current one here? I mean, okay, we weren't on air during the Obama administration, not in this format anyway, but I mean, oh, geez, the expansion of drone strikes going on there is one of the ones that sticks with me. And even to the start of it, the whole kind of talked about global apology tour. But then I feel like that would have been probably repeated under this administration if it weren't for the fact that, well, we were still in the middle of the pandemic, and then the hopefully not start of World War III has gone on now. But I feel like you could have, otherwise it probably would have happened here. But I mean, that's a whole another few shows here. Some other comments here. RJ saying, I've seen a few months back in LA, sheriff or chief of PD or head of the union warned anyone coming to LA they can't be protected from mugging, other crimes. I'm just going to say, imagine an American city with that kind of warning not to come visit. I mean, there are international warnings about visiting America in general, but yeah, serious issues. I think that's playing off of John Browsleton's earlier comment. Hollywood Avenue, one of the worst streets in the USA. When working at the U.S. Air Force event, went to a local McDonald's, which I had to have a security guard, and watched a trench-coated young man drive heaves as he couldn't get his drugs for the day. The homeless lived all over the avenue. Haven't been there when it's quite that bad, but having visited that area previously on family trips kind of thing, talking about, well, at least there was one sign that has stuck with me. A gentleman saying, with his cup out, with a sign saying, why lie? It's for beer. At the very least, I appreciated the honesty that came along with it, though I don't think that guy was the particular issue. I mean, the pictures that you see coming out of there of not even just the tents, but almost like broken down RVs. They may still move, but not for gas maybe, but just all of that, yeah, a lot that goes into it. And one of the many, many, many reasons I don't live in California here, but let's get back to those phone lines here right now. Do believe we've actually got David on the line here with us. David, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks, man.
Yeah, sure thing. What's on your mind?
So first of all, I just this is Poosicle.
Oh, okay.
I'm AKA Poosicle, so I wanted to reinforce that you are very handsome. So
okay, I'll take your word for it.
Point. My second point is that I had some counterpoints to the previous caller, so I wanted to do that. So I and my family are illegal immigrants, and she was talking about how like Trump, helped with the immigration policies and all that, and he built the wall and all that. Well, I can tell you, I firsthand being an illegal immigrant, that it is not easier now to get over into the U.S. than it was under the previous administration. I don't know if you guys have heard about the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021, but Biden has issued this, and it made it a lot more difficult. You know, it had some opposite views of you know, of Trump, like keeping our families together and stuff like that. But also, it also cracks down on crime. So as an illegal, you know, I have to do whatever I can do to survive. And, you know, if that means robbing people, stuff like that, I got to do what I got to do. And I can't do that anymore under Biden. So as someone that's done that firsthand, you know, it's just impossible to rob people now. I mean, they're cracking skulls out there. You know, I had the INS beating my butt just the other day. You know, they're really cracking down on this stuff. So whoever's telling these guys that Biden is like soft on immigration or anything like that, I got the cracked skull to prove it. I mean, they're out there pounding the pavement. So, you know, I think her name was Barbara, right? They called her previously. I just want Barbara to know, I hope she's listening. You know, you may think that, you know, Biden's soft compared to Trump on these immigration policies, but it's just because he's not as much of a showman as Trump is. You know, Trump was out there, you know, I'm building the wall, I'm doing this. Whereas Biden, he's passing these laws and giving power to these people. And they're, you know, I support it though. You know, I want to be safe too. You know, I just sneak back in, but I just really think that they should do a little research before they call in. Cause I mean, you got this Immigration Act. I mean, and I just really, Barbara didn't sound like the type of person that's experiencing these things. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So
probably not in the same way you're talking about it, but I just want to make sure I'm clear on what I'm hearing here, saying that you are and your family has been illegal immigrants and that you, in deference to that situation, have had to commit crimes.
Oh yeah, you gotta crime to survive sometimes, man.
Okay, that's a very interesting point and call to make there then. I gotta say this is a unique one for me, but okay, so in then the ability to do the crossing, just since we got your perspective here, is it really that much different in the way it has been between the administrations and what they're actually, besides the legal status of it here and dealing with INS, Immigration and Naturalization Services, not usually an agency we talk about this, more of the things usually come up from like ICE and CBP, but okay, in terms of the actual crossing, if you say you've done that recently, would you say that has been easier or different?
Oh, it's a lot more difficult under Biden. I mean, they're really cracking down on it. I don't know about how it is. I know you guys are in El Paso. I don't know how it is from Juarez to El Paso, but man, it's so much harder to get over now.
Okay. All right. Well, that's interesting point to bring up there. I think we're going to move on from that right now. So thank you for the point in the call here. Yeah, INS brings up some questions for me, but maybe we'll get further into that here. But anyway, getting to further calls in the line here, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Some of you had questions about legitimacy of there that do come to mind for me as well. But right now we do have Harry on the east side here with us on the line here. Harry, thanks for joining us.
Yes, good afternoon, El Paso and Andrew. Hey, we're in some heavy stuff today.
Apparently, yeah.
Between Andrew and Barbara and Raul and myself, I want you to keep Pancho Villa's stash house open. We might have somewhere to go after all this is over.
Fair enough.
Barbara had some good stuff today. The previous caller was very interesting. But anyway, what I want to comment on, Andrew, was our guest today, Ben Breier. Ben's on to something, you know, motivational. I'm sure his book is going to go well with all the positive. And we do need to be reminded occasionally about positive things.
Oh, sure.
Otherwise, you know, depressions don't work. But one thing that I would add to the conversation the first thing that comes into anybody's mind or life is self-survival. If you don't have self-survival, nothing else matters. In life, it don't work in rewind. There's no Betamax here. Betamax left town. And most of us go with what we got. And that's kind of the issue. Good, bad, and indifferent, breaks here and there. It's a great subject he got on, and I could see why he spent all the time he spent on explaining it, and it was some good stuff. But anyway, what I wanted to call about was your opening monologue regarding trucking here in El Paso.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for the truck drivers to begin with.
Oh, absolutely.
And they are all over the roads, Andrew. I tell you, all over the east side particularly. And Lee Trevino and George Dieter. And I'm telling you, you need to get out of these truck drivers' way because they do not slow down. They want to get to where they're going, do what they're doing. And apparently there has been a lot of serious accidents. And the reason I mentioned that is you've got 2 or 3 law firms that go on TV every night advertising cases where if you have been involved in a truck accident. And I'm thinking, well, holy moly, here they go again. You're not going where the money's at. But what are you going to do? But I'm telling you, if you ever get hit by one of those guys, good luck to you. And the last comment I would like to make, as important as we're discussing the downtown thoroughfare and the money that would be spent in the projects that are being designed, we got to start road lane marking. We got to mark the lanes here on the east side. And I'm not just talking about one location, Andrew. You can drive and you don't see the lines.
Oh, yeah.
You have to use your self-instinct and stay to the right, depending on how many lanes you're driving in. But I'm telling you, the lanes here on the east side, I don't think they've marked anything up in 50 years. And you can't see them. No kidding.
That sounds about right. I don't know if it's necessarily that they haven't marked lanes, though a lot of them do seem faded, but also the angle of the light, the way the light hits here sometimes on the roads can make it not invisible, even if they have been practically freshly painted. I don't know if we need better reflectors or something here, but yeah, the question, and again, truck drivers, I mean, there's whole books that have been written about the impacts that might happen if the trucks stop moving for whatever reason, because if you say, well, we've got trains and we've got boats and all that stuff, but the last mile is often straight off the back of an 18-wheeler. So the impacts that would come from that, Calvin Williams saying a truck driver's the last American cowboy, the last American cowboys, real cowboys. Interesting take on it. But, I mean, seriously, the importance to the lifeblood here is pretty serious to the American public here. But so the question remains then, okay, with that, do we want the transit to still go through the main corridor of downtown or look at some kind of rerouting? I'm not sure that's on the table right now because any kind of revamp coming of I-10, sure, there will be some rerouting, but a true bypass of El Paso, I mean, you can't even really call 375 a bypass anymore because it goes, then straight through northeast and the west side. So it's closed. And then the idea, Trans Mountain isn't always available. So there's plenty of issues that come along with that. So the idea of how to deal with that community-wide going into the future is a reasonable one going forward. I do have to agree.
Well, let's hope that the city fathers are listening to our programming here so that, they can make of it what they will. But, I'm telling you that lanes marked, we've had some one-way situation where people were going the wrong way. In fact, we've had some folks killed. So that's my point.
Absolutely here. There was that survey that just came out. We talked about a little bit earlier in the week. The idea of, road maintenance being important to El Pasoans. Also, the sky is blue most of the time, by the way, guys, in case you needed that headline news. But yeah, thank you for the points in the call. Do appreciate it. We got to hit that next break right now. Overdue here. Getting to a lot of stuff today, as it has been referred to. But we'll get to more calls after this break. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, I'm Erica Castillo with this KFOX 14 News Update. The new Omicron subvariant of the virus that causes COVID-19, BA2, is now in El Paso. El Paso's health authority, Dr. Hector Ocaranza, told KFOX 14 today that one case has been reported and there's no need for concern outside of being vaccinated and practicing good hygiene. BA2 is the latest subvariant of Omicron, the dominant strain of the SARS-CoV-2 virus that causes COVID-19. While the origin of BA2 is still unclear, it has quickly become the dominant strain in many countries, including India, Denmark, and South Africa. It's continuing to spread in Europe, Asia, and many other parts of the world as well. But this is the first time the subvariant is identified in our community. And CEOs of Alaska Airlines, American Airlines, Atlas Air Worldwide, Delta, FedEx Express, Hawaiian Airlines, JetBlue, and Southwest, along with United and UPS, have all signed a letter asking the U.S. government to lift federal mask mandates on air travel. America Castillo with us, KFOX 14.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
I-10 westbound after Wrestler, a stalled vehicle is blocking the right shoulder. A stalled vehicle is blocking the entrance ramp at Diana Drive to the Gateway northbound. On the border highway, westbound at Zaragoza, another stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. Loop 375 at Iron Medics, disabled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. A crash downtown Father Ram Avenue at El Paso Street. Use Stanton or 3rd Avenue to avoid the slowing. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
In Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. We have finally moved out of the 60s and we are now in the 70s, but we're soon to jump right into the 80s as temperatures continue to rise as we make our way through the weekend. In fact, this weekend, we could be flirting with near record warmth. By next week, though, we've got another wind maker coming. It not only brings stronger winds, but a chance for some rain and cooler air.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples Print and Marketing Services help small business print big with wide format signs and banners. Right now, get $10 off custom printed signs, banners, and posters when you spend $50 or more. Offer ends 5/28. Visit staples.com/signage for details. This is your sign to print big at Staples.
Congrats to all the winners from the iHeartRadio Music Awards. Because of everyone who got vaccinated, we were able to celebrate our favorite artists together, live.
Shout out to all who got vaccinated and gotten their kids vaccinated.
So events like this are safer and just more enjoyable for all.
Missed it? Check out the Red Carpet Live, presented by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services on iHeartRadio's Facebook and YouTube channel. Get vaccinated, get boosted, and find vaccines near you at Vaccines.
New on Curiosity Stream.
One small step for man.
Hear the untold story of how the first mission to the moon almost ended in disaster.
Without that circuit breaker, we simply couldn't launch. If Armstrong and Aldrin weren't able to come home, how do you handle that as a nation?
On 1 hour that changed the world. And AI can think like us and act like us, but how close is it to replacing us? Find out on Becoming Human. It's all on Curiosity Stream. Annual plans are $20, just $1.67 a month. Visit curiositystream.com.
I love when my friends stop by, but to help keep my friends and my family safe, I always spray Lysol in my home before guests arrive and again after they leave. Nothing kills more viruses on more surfaces than Lysol disinfectant spray. Lysol, what it takes to protect. Use as directed.
Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Blindster blinds are easy to install and guaranteed to fit. Don't overpay for new blinds. Shop Blindster today and save big. Blindster.com. This report is sponsored by Blindster.
The most current and comprehensive. Just minutes away at the top and bottom of the hour. And always online at KTSMradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. We got a lot of interesting comments and callers here. And as has been correctly pointed out here, I mean, we take a lot of calls on a lot of things, and I maybe give people a little bit more leeway than I should. But by my reckoning, someone did point out that INS, Immigration and Naturalization Services, ceased existing by my research here in 2003. So unless someone's really up on it and really been doing this for a long time, got split into USCIS, CBP, and ICE there. So, yeah. we take calls and we do those things. But, oh, man, the comments coming out here as well. We get a lot of calls on the line here as well. If you want to try to squeeze in, the number to call 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Some comments about the roads here. John Browsleton saying that the higher the vehicle, the better you can see the interstate lines. And Calvin Williams responding, that only helps truckers, not the idiots around them. I mean, defensive driving is a very real thing. But also saying you need to mark them with something other than that shows up under different lighting conditions and when it rains. I mean, very serious here. And a lot of other comments about immigration and all those issues here. One question that came in, other specifically, Calvin Williams asking, no cause for the hotel that burned down. Yep, the investigation is closed on the DeSoto Hotel and has been listed as officially undetermined. So that just, I mean, unanswered questions literally from word one of that whole statement. But a lot of we get some interesting things going on here, but at least we try to go on the subjects that we go on to these issues here. Anyway, getting back to the phone lines here. The number to call again, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Rick in New Mexico here with us on the line right now. Rick, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thank you very much. How you doing, Mr. Polk?
Oh, doing all right there. What's on your mind?
Yes, I wanted to thank you. First of all, thank you, and thank 690 AM for having this venue, for giving us people 1 minute, 30 seconds of our voice.
Absolutely.
This show you give, it reveals the people that are unaware and the people that are aware, the people that are living in negative, the people that are living in positive, and the people that are living in deception, and the people that are living in truth. Okay? And thank you very much. That was my first part. Second part, I want to address Barbara and then Raul, and the older man that just talked, well, he has a good story. And I'll address the hamburger later. On Barbara spoke pure facts. I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
Pure history, pure... Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, I think you sound like we got interrupted there, but go ahead, Ricky.
Oh, okay. Yeah. She spoke pure facts, pure history. It was all truth. She spoke in truth. That you can't debate truth. It was done with actions speaks louder than words. Whatever Trump may say, it was what he did, what was done. Everything was 100%, 90%, top. He helped the people. He did all good. Now to Raul. Raul tells Barbara, oh, why aren't you complaining? Then that he shows himself so clear every single time. That is the Democrats. Complain. They're criers. Republicans at least work and fix and do something. Democrats cry here. Cry. Why didn't you complain? Oh, we don't complain. Action speaks louder than words. Go for it. Raul, he shows himself. Democrats, it's sad, they speak in arrogance and in ignorance. You can totally see how he speaks. Well, more than like most El Pasoans, I've done this. Like if he's higher, it's really sad. It's very sad, and I pity that for him, that everybody can see that. Now, let's go to the Hamburglar. We must pray for that gentleman that says he's got to live in crime. I think he was more like a mole, he was just saying things. It's way easy to cross the border. I think it's a coup that's happening to the United States. People are starting to realize when it happens totally fully, it'll be kind of too late. There's too many people. We stop 100,000 and 3 million come in. So anyhow, that's what I wanted to say. And with let's pray for that gentleman that's a hamburger. He wants to live that way. When you go negative pure, the ultimate is you self-destruction. It's self-demise. That's what's going to happen. Now I'm going to go off to the war. Putin is going to be self-demise himself. He's going to destroy himself. All leaders that have done this, that's where they wind up. So that was my comments, and I love your show, Mr. Polk, and I thank you again.
No, sure thing. Appreciate it. I mean, we're here to do this discussion here. I'm just happy to be the guy who is able to do it. I mean, there's, again, some very interesting calls we get sometimes here. I'm not often surprised. I don't feel like I'm often surprised, but sometimes it happens here. I mean, again, to say that, and why don't you support my points here? The real issue that I come down with it, and when there's not willing to be the analysis that you put towards the opposite side of this political spectrum to even your own side, because that's really, I think, where I think most of the issues we are in right now, the whole, it's wrong when they do it, but it's fine when we do it. If you're not willing to apply that kind of an analysis and be like, no, wrong is wrong, regardless of who is doing it, pork barrel projects, graft in office, all those kind of things, it doesn't take an R or a D by the name to be able to call that out regardless here. So if you're not willing to say, no, this is wrong regardless of the party behind it, and not extend it to even yours, that's where I find the analysis lacking. So if you got things you support about a public official, sure, go right ahead. But also remember, at least the way I think people should think about it, they are here to serve us. That's the point. That's the entire point. We elect them to serve us, and the whole cult of personality that can exist around any elected official is just wrong in my mind. So if you like them, go right ahead, but there's no one that I have felt needs to be in public office because they're such a great guy. That's never my rationale when going to the voting booth, but thank you for the point in the call. All right, we'll get to one more quick one here before we hit this next break. I do believe we have Raul in the Northeast here on the line. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew, great guest. He said that COVID was no joke, and he talked about its disruptive effect on the work and workers and their companies, undoubtedly. To address Barbara's point, talking about, first of all, about Trump's hires. Well, first of all, he brought his kids into the White House, okay? That's called nepotism. And then he drained the swamp creatures from corporate America into the White House. And he fired anyone who disagreed with him and surrounded himself with sycophants. He spent more time talking and tweeting than listening to the experts because he repeatedly claimed to know more about everything than everybody, including the generals. He did not keep his promise to round up and deport 11 million people working illegally in the United States. He made a big deal out of that. He said it over and over again, but he didn't do it. And he built very little wall, and Mexico did not pay for it. And no amount of spending on your part got any physical versus policy wall built. And the wall, without anybody nearby to catch someone with a ladder higher than the wall or some ropes to get over the wall, is a waste of money.
Okay, so to talk about that specific point then here, saying that, and I freely admit here, not even something I was trying to obfuscate, which is an interesting point to make about that no, there was no payment from Mexico that I'm aware of that came towards the physical construction of the wall. But you also have to agree that diplomatically anyway, Mexico more or less, well, during the Trump administration anyway, the whole current status of it and the whole idea of the ant migration, that's up for debate and further analysis here. But the whole revamping of the Guardia Nacional, the Mexican National Guard, became in its own way a wall within Mexico. I mean, it was a total mechanism that was not in place prior to that administration. You have to agree to that at the very least, right?
People are still coming across, Andrew. It didn't keep everybody from coming across. People
not what I said. Okay.
Across, and they will continue to get across. And unless we change our policies and the way we deal with these Latin American countries, who the United States had a long history of getting in bed with the ruling elites of those countries, the descendants of the Europeans, of the white Europeans, and their banana republics, and the dictators that they had, which created economies that were very poor and not suitable to the new world, basically agricultural economies. Those people will keep on coming over. It's a giant problem. It's terrible. Trump did not make the United States better. He made America sicker, poorer, and more divided. Now, I was watching the confirmation hearings of Ketanji Brown Jackson, and I want to say that Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley and Lindsey Graham, they engaged in a mission to portray Judge Jackson as weak on pedophilia downloads of stuff on online. I don't really know why they were all so on it. It went over and over it for hours when they could have just said, hey, listen, Judge Jackson here, in our opinion, does not sentence those found guilty of online pedophilia for as long as we would. End of story. It was ridiculous. And they tried to paint her soft on that. Republicans failed to remove an impeached president from office because they were biased jurors. They failed to keep their oaths to be impartial jurors, to hear all the witnesses, and to examine all the evidence. Jackson faces a very tough confirmation. She probably won't get any Republican votes. And Lindsey Graham, who voted for her two times before, for the highest court in the land, other than the Supreme Court, now says he's not going to do it. Back in 2015, Lindsey Graham said this about Donald Trump. He doesn't represent the values of the men and women wearing a uniform who are fighting for us. Trump.
Lindsey Graham also ran in office for the presidential nomination at one point before dropping out against Donald Trump. So, you want to pick anything done on the campaign trail or before the point. yeah, that's obviously going to be able to find some statements here. But to your idea about the confirmation hearing, why didn't they softball her some questions? Is that seriously what's being asked here? Because that's not how this works. Impeachments, you want to talk about that as well, is not a legal process. We've been down this road many times here discussing what actually takes impeachment, and really I am still going to marginally fault Democratic leadership for that debacle, because they knew going into it the realities of it, and sure, whether or not something should be done right or taking the action of it, but so if you're staring down a barrel and say, no, I don't think that the trigger will be pulled, is just foolishness if you have no actual control over it here. Anyway, okay, we have got to take that next break right now. Thank you for the point in the call, but we're treading some well-torn ground there. But we'll get back to those phone calls here so we squeeze in if we can during this last segment here. Otherwise, we'll be back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
I-10 eastbound at Airway, an accident is blocking the right lane. Stay left. I-10 westbound at Piedras, a stalled vehicle blocking the left shoulder. Loop 375 westbound at the 54 Gateway, a disabled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. And George Dieter Drive northbound just before Pelicano at Jennifer Drive, an injury accident there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster. Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Blindster blinds are easy to install and guaranteed to fit. Don't overpay for new blinds. Shop Blindster today and save big. Blindster.com.
Have you thought about getting dental implants? Has someone told you that implants cost $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a tooth? Here's something much better to think about. Affordable dental implants from 1995implants.com. The El Paso dental office, where beautiful, top-quality, long-lasting dental implants are as low as $1,995 per tooth. That price includes the implant, abutment, and crown, which many other places charge extra for. At 1995implants.com, we also offer a free consultation, free standard x-rays, and convenient financing. 1995implants.com. You're going to love your new smile, and your friends and family will be telling you how great you look. Best of all, your dental implants are very affordable if you come to 1995implants.com. For more information, see our website, 1995implants.com. That's 1995implants.com. Se habla español.
So, spring flowers aren't exactly in full bloom, but the deals at Kohl's are. Right now, you can get tech gear for under $15. Sandals for everyone in the family for just $24.99. And Black & Decker kitchen appliances for less than $30. You can also earn Kohl's Cash and get it all with free store pickup. Things are looking brighter already. Select styles, offers in March 27. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
Research shows people remember radio ads that remind them of the past. So to help you remember that Liberty Mutual Insurance Company customizes your home insurance so you only pay for what you need, here's an ad that'll really take you back.
Back in my day, I heard a voice from the radio say, Liberty Mutual customizes my home insurance so I only pay for what I need. I'm getting on in years now, but heavens to Betsy, there are some things an old fella like me just never forgets.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk, rounding the bend for that last segment here. We got a call or two we'll try to squeeze in here for the moment, but it kind of feels like we already kind of dipped into Free-for-All Friday today here, didn't it? Well, of course, that's what we got coming up on the docket for you tomorrow, because 4 to 6 p.m. we will be taking your comments and calls throughout both hours. So I guess let's keep that energy up, because I'm going to have to go back and listen to this one. This has been a wilder show than I think I even realized at the time here. But let's quit into at least a couple more calls here, because we got a pound 250. But we do have Andrew on the line here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, you were talking about the truckers, Andrew.
Yes.
Okay. Well, like everything else that's being affected by this rising oil prices, well, imagine having to pay $10,000 to replace an entire set of tires. Imagine having to pay $50 because you have so many axles on your truck just to cross a toll road.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh, and I know I don't have much time, but kudos to Barbara. And as for that guy that claimed he was here illegally, I think that's, I have an alternate theory. I think he's a product of catch and release or a paid caller.
Okay, I've been accused. I don't pay anyone to call into the show, and I don't think I could have come up with such a weird subject on that. Not that I'm saying you're accusing me of it, but yeah, there's a couple inconsistencies in that whole story. I think you commented later on saying take out something by jet fight. There's some weirdness we attract in this kind of a space, but that one's a little bit further out there than usual. And if any of that is real, good luck, because you're gonna need it, is the best I can say.
I'm saying somebody else might have paid him to call in.
Yeah, fair enough. Whether or not that's we'll keep dealing with it as we do here on this program. But one of the weirder ones, I'll give it that.
Yes, and as for Raul, you're never going to get a straight answer from him. He is non-responsive to your questions. Anyway, have a good day. We'll see you tomorrow on the radio.
Oh, absolutely there. I appreciate the point in the call here. Oh, so the last one we got to get to today, the pound 250 system, because particularly at this point in the show, if you haven't quite been able to get on or get your comment through, you can always leave us a message. The pound 250, dial that on your phone, pound 250, all four of those symbols. It'll ring, say the keyword Talk El Paso. When prompted, just say Talk El Paso. Leave your own message like this.
This is Messiah Frankie. This I want to share with all of you out there. It's the most atrocious nonsense I've ever heard. What kind of mush is this? This poor girl out there looking to become a Supreme Court justice is being interviewed by a bunch of stupid conservative morons. That Lindsey Graham cracker guy? What is this stuff? Beating up on her for the stupidest nonsense, and then that your stupid nonsense moron stud cruds is doing the same thing, and that Hawley guy from Missouri. What is this stuff? These are leaders of the United States of America? Are you serious? What kind of thing is it? This is Banana Republic stuff. What is the matter with you conservatives out there? Get your duckies in line, for crying out loud. Oh, my goodness.
I mean, I would imagine Banana Republic would revolve more around there not being any questioning of a person who's going to hold an otherwise lifetime public office here. But tell you what, we'll just consider that the kickoff for Free for All Friday tomorrow. Again, 4 to 6 p.m. right here on News Radio 690 KTSM. We will take all those comments and calls, so leave us your own pound 250 message if you want to. Otherwise, I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
A crash on the I-10 eastbound at Airway Boulevard is causing a backup all the way before Piedras. Watch for delays there. Loop 375 westbound at the Gateway Patriot, a stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. I-10 westbound at Piedras, a disabled vehicle blocking the left shoulder. Gateway Boulevard northbound at Diana, a stalled vehicle blocking the Diana Drive entrance ramp to the Gateway. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
Is your current home loan the right fit for you? Near historically low rates combined with rising home values means that you could have more home equity than you might imagine. And if you're considering a refi, an expertly chosen loan from Loan Depot could save you thousands. Ask about our smart term loans, cash out, and over 300 loan options to find just the right mortgage loan for you. Call now, 866-888-LOAN, or go to loandepot.com. Loan Depot, where home means everything. Rates are subject to change. Equal housing opportunity lender. NMLS number 174457. Licensed in all 50.
Congrats to all the winners from the iHeartRadio Music Awards. Because of everyone who got vaccinated, we were able to celebrate our favorite artists together live.
Shout out to all who got vaccinated and gotten their kids vaccinated.
So events like this are safer and just more enjoyable for all.
Missed it? Check out the Red Carpet Live presented by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services on iHeartRadio's Facebook and YouTube channel. Get vaccinated, get boosted, and find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
Olivia from Washington. Laid off and trying to keep our little kids from realizing that mommy and daddy haven't eaten in a while.
Roger from California. I'm grateful we could afford our son's surgery. I'm nervous that now we can't really afford food.
Daniel from California. Choosing whether to pay the rent or pay to fix the car to get to work doesn't leave us with much at all. Now we can't even pay for meals.
Donna from Louisiana.
the storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Keisha from South Carolina. I've been skipping meals so my 2 kids can eat, but filling up on water doesn't really work.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
News on the hour and the hat. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. At least one senator believes Russia should be expelled from the G20, a group involving the world's top economies. Delaware Democrat Chris Coons.
Expelling Russia from the G20 may be one of those constructive steps to send a forceful signal.
President Biden is applauding news that first-time claims for unemployment benefits fell to 187,000 last week. He said there are fewer Americans on unemployment insurance today than at any time in the last half century. Text messages show the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas urged the then White House Chief of Staff to continue efforts to overturn the 2020 election. The Washington Post and CBS News